Namaskar. Well, friends, I heartily welcome you all to Bhima Bhashya, my audio visual podcast series on Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. This audio visual podcast series has 54 short speeches unraveling as many as 25 different dimensions of this multifaceted genius. Friends, this podcast series is about Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, about his thoughts, his actions, his philosophy, and above all, the grand vision that he had seen for our country as a whole. This is what this podcast is all about. So let's proceed. Well, friends, let's continue our discussion of Dr. Ambedkar's role as a scholarly writer. In this particular episode, episode 34, I'm going to talk about Dr. Ambedkar's probably the most controversial book. The title of the book is What Congress and Gandhi Have Done to the Untouchables. And this is a very comprehensive treatise, and this became one of the most controversial books in our country. Why did Dr. Ambedkar write this book? He has explained that. Let me quote him. He said, Mr. Gandhi does not merely claim for himself the champion of the untouchables, he claims similar championship for the Congress. The Congress, he says, is fully pledged to redress the wrongs done to the untouchables and argues that any attempt to give political safeguards to the untouchables is unnecessary and harmful. It is therefore a great pity, Dr. Ambedkar says, it is a great pity that no detailed study of the claims by Mr. Gandhi and the Congress has been undertaken so far, unquote. And that is precisely what Dr. Ambedkar did in this exceptionally important book, What Congress and Gandhi Have Done to Untouchables. This is a big book, nearly 400 pages book. Dr. Ambedkar concludes the book with two chapters. One is Beware of Mr. Gandhi, and the last one is Gandhism, the doom of the untouchables. This by itself should give you an idea about the kind of argument, kind of thrust that Dr. Ambedkar had in this book. I'm not going to review the entire book, it is too bulky a book to cover, but I'm going to focus on part of the book and give you some excerpts from, particularly from the chapter on Gandhism. That is what I intend to do, and I'm going to do that in Dr. Ambedkar's own words. Please remember that. Well, friends, what Dr. Ambedkar says in the book, and I quote him, at the outset, it is necessary to state that for some Gandhiists, Gandhism means return to village and making the village self-reliant. Gandhism is neither so simple nor so innocent. It has a social philosophy and it has an economic philosophy. The first and foremost requisite is to present a true picture of Gandhism. Talking about the social philosophy, he says Mr. Gandhi's views on the caste system, which constitutes the main social problem of India, were fully elaborated by him in 1921-22 in a Gujarati journal called Navjivan. That has been translated into English by Dr. Ambedkar, and according to him, says Mr. Gandhi, I believe that if Hindu society has been able to stand, it is because it is founded on the caste system. Second, different castes are like different sections of military division. Each division is working for the good of the whole. Third, a community which can create the caste system must be said to possess unique power of organization. Four, caste has a ready-made means for spreading primary education. Caste can perform judicial functions by electing persons to act as judges to decide disputes among members of the same caste. With the caste, it is easy to raise a defense force by requiring each caste to raise a brigade. Fifth, I believe that interdining or intermarriage are not necessary to promote national unity. Six, the caste system cannot be said to be bad because it does not allow interdining or intermarriages between different castes. Caste is another name for control. Caste puts a limit on enjoyment. Caste does not allow a person to transgress caste limits in pursuit of his enjoyment. This is the meaning of such caste restrictions as interdining and intermarriage. The next point, to destroy the caste system and adopt the Western social system means that Hindus must give up the principle of hereditary occupation, which is the soul of the caste system. Hereditary principle is an eternal principle. To change it is to create disorder. Finally, the caste system is a natural order of society. In India, it has been given a religious coating. Mahatma Gandhi concluded by saying that these being my views, I am opposed to all those who are out to destroy the caste system. Dr. Ambedkar says in 1922, Mr. Gandhi was a defender of the caste system. In 1925, Mr. Gandhi became an upholder of the Varna system. The old Varna system prevalent in ancient India had society divided into four orders. We all know about that: Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Mr. Gandhi explained his Varna system in the following terms, says Dr. Ambedkar. First, I believe that the divisions into Varna is based on birth. Two, the Varna system is connected with the way of earning a living. There is no harm if a person belonging to one Varna acquires the knowledge of science or art specialized in by persons belonging to other Varnas. But as far as the way of earning is concerned, he must follow the occupation of the Varna to which he belongs, which means he must follow the hereditary profession of his forefathers. Next point, the objective of the Varna system is to prevent competition and class struggle and class war. I believe in the Varna system because it fixes duties and occupations of persons. Gandhiji goes on to say, Varna means the determination of man's occupation before he is born. In Varna system, no man has any liberty to choose his occupation. His occupation is determined for him by heredity. According to Dr. Ambedkar, this is the explanation given by Mr. Gandhi to support his upholding the Varna system. Turning to the economic philosophy, Gandhism stands on two ideals. One of these is the opposition to the machinery. As early as in 1921, Mr. Gandhi gave vent to his dislike for machinery, writing in Young India on January 19, 1921. Mr. Gandhi said, and he quotes Gandhiji, and I reproduce that, I would not weep over the disappearance of machinery or consider it as a calamity. Unquote. On another occasion, Mr. Gandhi said, and Dr. Ambedkar quotes him again, and I quote Dr. Ambedkar, we are destroying the matchless living machines, that is to say, our own bodies, by leaving them to rust and trying to substitute lifeless machinery for them. According to Dr. Ambedkar, anyone who has read Mr. Gandhi's booklet on Hind Swaraj, which came out in 1908, will know that Mr. Gandhi is against the modern civilization. In fact, Mr. Gandhi's view, he says, and he quotes Mahatma Gandhi again, Western civilization is a creation of Satan, unquote. The second ideal of Mr. Gandhi is the elimination of class war, even class struggle in the relationship between employers and employees. What does he say about the labor and their approach to sort out their problems? Gandhi said, according to Dr. Ambedkar, it would be suicidal if the laborers rely upon their numbers, that is to say, brute force, violence. By so doing, they will do harm to the industries in the country. If, on the other hand, they take their stand on pure justice and suffer in their person to secure it, not only will they always succeed, but they will reform their masters and develop industries, and both master and men will be the members of one and the same family. Unquote. According to Dr. Ambedkar, Mr. Gandhi does not wish to hurt the propertied class. He has no passion for economic equality. His solution for the economic conflict between the owners and workers, between the rich and the poor, between the landlords and the tenants, and between employers and employees is very simple. The owners need not deprive themselves of any of their property. All that they need to do is to declare themselves trustees of the poor. Of course, the trust is to be a voluntary one, carrying only a spiritual obligation. What hopes does Gandhism hold for the common man, to the down and out? Does it promise him a better life? A life of joy and culture? A life of freedom? Not merely freedom from want, but freedom to rise, to grow to the full stature which his capacities can reach. Dr. Ambedkar goes on to say, there is nothing new in the Gandhian analysis of economic ills so far as it attributes them to machinery and the civilization that is built upon it. Gandhism is merely repeating the views of Rousseau, Ruskin, Tolstoy, and their school. The ideas which go to make up Gandhism are just primitive. It is a return to nature, to animal life. The economics of Gandhism, it is hopelessly fallacious. The fact that machinery and modern civilization have produced so many evils may be admitted, But these evils are no argument against them. For the evils are not due to the machinery and modern civilization, they are due to the wrong social organization which has made private property and pursuit of personal gain matters of absolute sanctity. If machinery and civilization have not benefited everybody, the remedy is not to condemn machinery and civilization, but alter to alter the organization of society so that benefits will not be usurped by few and will accrue to all. In Gandhism, the common man has no hope. It treats man as an animal, no more, which means the cultivation of mind as distinguished from satisfaction of mere physical wants. And how can this happen? Dr. Ambedkar says machinery and modern civilization are indispensable for emancipating man from leading life of an animal and for providing him with leisure and making a life of culture possible. The man who condemns machinery and modern civilization simply does not understand their purpose and the ultimate aim which human society must strive to achieve. Gandhism may be well suited to a society which does not accept democracy as its ideal. A society which does not believe in democracy may be indifferent to machinery and civilization based upon it. But a democratic society cannot, the former, that is, other than democratic systems, may well content itself with a life of leisure and culture for the few and a life of toil and drudgery for many. But a democratic society must assure a life of leisure and culture to each one of its citizens. Accordingly, the slogan of a democratic society must be machinery and more machinery, civilization and more civilization. Under Gandhism, the common man must keep on toiling ceaselessly for a pittance and remain a brute. In short, Gandhism, with its call back to nature, means back to nakedness, back to squalor, back to poverty, and back to ignorance for the vast mass of people. The idea of trusteeship, which Gandhism proposes as a panacea by which the moneyed class will hold their properties in trust for the poor, is the most ridiculous part of it. All that one can say about it is this, that if anybody else had propounded it, the author would have laughed at it as a silly fool who had not known the hard realities of life. The social ideal of Gandhism is either caste or Varna. Though it may be difficult to say which, there can be no doubt that the social ideal of Gandhism is not democracy. For whether one takes for comparison caste or Varna, both are fundamentally opposed to democracy. Gandhiji's argument that the Hindu society has been able to stand while others died out or disappeared is hardly a matter of congratulation. There is no honor in mere survival. What matters is the plane of survival. One can survive by unconditional surrender. One can survive by beating a cowardly retreat, and one can survive by fighting. On what plane have the Hindus survived? The Hindus have not only never withstood the onslaught of the foreign invader, they have never even shown the capacity to organize a rebellion to throw off the foreign yoke. On this, one may well argue the contrary, namely that this helpless condition of the Hindus is due entirely to the caste system. Dr. Ambedkar goes on to say, it cannot be said that the caste is the only machinery for discharging such functions as the spread of primary education or the judicial settlement of disputes. Caste is probably the worst instrument for the discharge of such functions. Such functions have been discharged in other countries much better than they have been in India, although they have no caste system. Dr. Ambedkar goes on to say, it may be considered that in a Vaishnava family, members of the family do not interdine, and yet they are full of love and affection for one another. What does all this prove? It does not prove that interdining and intermarrying are not necessary for establishing fraternity. What it proves that where there are other means of maintaining fraternity, such as consciousness of family tie, interdining and intermarriages are not necessary. But it cannot be denied that where, as in the caste system, no binding force exists, intermarriage and interdining are absolutely essential. No one who knows anything about Manusmriti can say that the caste system is a natural system. What does Manusmriti show? It shows that the caste system is a legal system maintained at the point of a bayonet. If it has survived, it is because of 1. Prevention of masses from possession of arms, 2. Denying the masses to right to education, and 3. Depriving the masses of the right to property. The caste system, far from natural, is really an imposition by the ruling classes upon the servile classes. That Mr. Gandhi changed over from the caste system to Varna system does not make the slightest difference to the charge that Gandhism is opposed to democracy. Both are evil ideas, and it matters very little whether one believes in Varna or in caste. Dr. Ambedkar goes on to say, Gandhism is in no sense a revolutionary creed. It is conservatism in excelsis. So far as India is concerned, it is a reactionary creed blazoning on its banner the call of return to antiquity. Gandhism aims at resuscitation and reanimation of India's dread, a dying past. Gandhism is a paradox. It stands for freedom from foreign domination, which means destruction of the existing political structure of the country. At the same time, it seeks to maintain intact a social structure which permits the domination of one class by another on a hereditary basis, which means a perpetual domination of one class by another. What is the explanation of this paradox? Is it a part of strategy of Mr. Gandhi to win the wholehearted support of the Hindus, Orthodox and unorthodox, to the campaign for Swaraj? If it is the latter, can Gandhism be regarded as honest and sincere? Be that as it may, there are two features of Gandhism which are revealing, but to which, unfortunately, no attention has been given so far. The first special feature of Gandhism is that its philosophy helps those who have to keep what they have and to prevent those who have not from getting what they have a right to get. No one who examines the Gandhian attitude to strikes, the Gandhian doctrine of trusteeship by the rich for the benefit of the poor, can deny that this is upshot of Gandhism. The second feature of Gandhism is to delude people into accepting their misfortunes by presenting them as best of good fortunes. One or two illustrations will suffice to bring out the truth of this statement. The Hindu sacred law penalized the Shudras, the fourth class, from acquiring wealth. It is a law of enforced poverty unknown in any other part of the world. And what does Gandhism do? It does not lift the ban. It blesses the Shudras for his moral courage to give up the property. It is well worth quoting Mr. Gandhi's own words. Here they are. And Dr. Ambedkar quotes Mahatma Gandhi. Please listen carefully. And I quote, "The Shudras who only serves as a matter of religious duty and who will never own any property and who indeed has not even the ambition to own anything is deserving 1,000 obeisance. Very gods will shower down flowers on him." Unquote. To preach poverty is good for Shudra and for nobody else. To preach that scavenging is good for untouchables and no one else. And to make them accept these onerous impositions as voluntary purposes of life by appeal to their failings is an outrage and a cruel joke on the helpless classes, which none but Mr. Gandhi can perpetuate with equanimity and impunity. Criticism apart, this is the technique of Gandhism to make wrongs done to appear to the very victim as though they were his privileges. If there is an ism which has made full use of religion as an opium to lull people into false beliefs and false security, it is Gandhism. Well, friends, this is a summary, in the words of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar himself, of a part of this book which relates to the so-called Gandhism. Well, friends, we can conclude this session here. And before I leave, let me say this, that if you like this audio-visual podcast series, do like it, do subscribe to it, do share it. So long until we meet again real soon. Thank you. Namaskar.